Okay, hello. Welcome to BtoB Magazine's Advertising Agency Roundtable for 2011. My name is Sean Callahan, and I'm an executive editor at BtoB and Media Business Magazines. Today I have three prominent BtoB advertising agency executives who will discuss the future of B2B marketing and how it's being impacted by various trends and technologies. We have Rick Segal, Worldwide President, Chief Practice Officer of GyroHSR, with us today. We also have Gary Slack, Chairman, Chief Experience Officer of Slack & Company. And finally, we have Tom Stein, President, Chief Creative Officer of Stein Rogan+Partners. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
First, let me start with a question to Rick Segal, who during a recent speech in Munich argued that B2B marketing is obsolete. I was hoping, Rick, that you could give us the context for this statement and what you mean by it. And then I'd like to hear some reaction from Gary and Tom to your remarks. So, Rick.
Sure. Well, you know, as someone who's spent the last 11,000 days of his life focused in the category, it's a comment that I do not make flippantly or with just the purpose of being, agent provocateur. I really very sincerely believe that a paradigm has shifted, that B2B marketing is not only obsolete, but it may well be very much dead. We kind of know from the whole matter of structure scientific revolutions, where Thomas Kuhn coined the term paradigm shift, that when an existing paradigm shifts, the bottom falls out of that paradigm, and I think that's where we are now. I think what that has to do with is the events of the last 17 years, in which essentially two technological innovations, largely TDMA for beginners, which in 1993 made the mass distribution of mobile handheld technology feasible, and the other in 1993 would have been Mosaic, which put an internet browser in the hands of us all. Those two things essentially transformed telecommunications in a way that it puts telecommunications onto the bodies of individual people. And it has caused what were the barriers between work life and personal life to fall down and collapse, and a convergence between work life and leisure life that is barely discernible, and in the process, has created what one person I've been working with, Dalton Conley from NYU, it calls Weisure, W-E-I-S-U-R-E, which is this life of convergence between our work life and our leisure life, and in the process has changed the way we talk to business decision makers. It's, being at work is no longer a place. It is a state of mind among this kind of continuing oscillation that people are making between their work life and their personal life. And, I think probably all three of us along the way for years have been saying that, at the end of the day, business to business is person to person. But I think what's happened is a much more profound change, and that is that we no longer contact people. We no longer contact places of business. We contact individual people, and we meet them in a stream of communications in which they are conducting personal business at work, and they are taking work home for longer hours than ever before. And I think it has just fundamentally changed the idea of B2B marketing, and particularly what our industry and our clients and those of you who observe our industry refer to as B2B marketing is really very much something whose time has come and passed.
All right, Gary, what is your reaction to Rick's statement?
Well, the way I look at it is smart B2B marketers in the past, today, and in the future simply want to be present, noticeable and engaged where their buyers are, where they're spending time and when. And that was true 40 to 30 to 20 to 10 years ago. It's true today, and it'll be true, 10, 20, 30, 40 years into the future. So while our clients may not be investing as much in traditional place-based media pathways, such as direct mail and print advertising, these kinds of investments have not become obsolete, but just perhaps marginalized, depending on the industry and the age and media consumption habits of the buyer. So as our clients invest more in the newer places where B2B buyers are congregating and spending their time these days, such as the web, email, search engines, LinkedIn, YouTube, social media, I guess online communities, virtual trade shows, and of course mobile, we're really not doing anything fundamentally different than what we and our predecessors have been doing for decades. To paraphrase Visa's tagline, we're still trying to be everywhere buyers want to be. It's just that our choices of channels and pathways are constantly evolving. But just because we want to be where they are doesn't mean buyers want us to be everywhere they may choose to be, at least not right now. So I would say while Rick may be right that individual people, not just residences or workplaces, are now communications network nodes in and of themselves, that doesn't mean that, and I'm sorry to put it this way, Rick, but that doesn't mean that bugging business people to death on their mobile devices makes every other push or pull tactic we've ever used to influence and engage buyers obsolete.
All right, Tom, I was wondering what your reaction is to this.
So my sense of this is I think there's a lot of great thinking in what Rick has communicated, and I certainly think the notion of work-life balance being less and less demarcated is the case, and I think that we as marketers to business decision makers and influencers clearly need to be mindful of that, and clearly need to be mindful of the streams of communication and the points of connection. That said, I don't think that anything actually has suddenly become obsolete. So my feeling is that there's been a gradual change that has given rise to accelerated change. And the other thing that I would want to make a case for is that the people that we're communicating with, whether they're prosumers or whether they're small business people or whether they're decision makers in larger enterprises or in government or in education or in healthcare, all of these different kinds of people are not a uniform cohort. They're all distinct. They all consume media differently. They all use their mobile devices differently. And I think it's our business to know and understand the differences and market to them accordingly. And carrying the thought a little bit further, I actually would say that if we're making a statement that B2B marketing per se is obsolete and dead, in fact, I think that was the word that you used, Rick, and that a paradigm has shifted, I think you could very much say the same thing about consumer marketing. And so a lot of the same technology impacts are occurring in the consumer space. And so I think, to Gary's point, there's an ongoing evolution. I think it's a particularly accelerated evolution, and paradigms indeed may be shifting. But I don't think that B2B marketing is dead. I think it's markedly different and needs to be and will be into the future.
I think it's an interesting observation that you make there, Tom, because I think, if any of you followed the Berlin speech, one of the ultimate takeaways is that while I think what we have referred to as B2B marketing, in my mind, is obsolete, the task and the opportunity of communicating to people in an at-work state of mind is probably greater than ever, and that in many ways, to your last point, those of us who have honed our skills in communicating to people who are making decisions the way that historically B2B decision makers have made a decision actually may have the skill sets to be preeminent in the emerging new models of consumer marketing. Because there's things that we've learned, as we've stomped the grapes in B2B that now actually are the fundamental skill sets that are required for being good consumer marketers of consideration and engagement and the activation of social networks. Those are all skill sets that we've learned through our long careers in B2B that I think are actually now exceedingly more valuable to all marketers.
And I think to your point that they're also they're increasingly inherent to new generations of people coming into B2B decision maker or business decision maker roles. Now, I always think that one of the issues, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, Rick and Gary, also, is that the term B2B may in fact be a bit of a sticking point, because when you think of businesses, or maybe they're better referred to as brands, I'm not sure, and you think about the constituents that a business or a brand needs to market to, and the target markets. And as I was saying before, a prosumer is very different even than a micro business. A micro business is radically different than a mid-sized enterprise, which is fairly different than a large enterprise. And then you factor in verticals and things of that nature, and then location, geography, nationality, all of these things. And I think that the business to business is a term that may need to be rethought. I'm not sure that the concept is dead. I think that the term may need to evolve.
Mm-hmm. Gary, do you have anything to add?
I don't think anything more than what I've said. I do think B2B is still a very relevant term, a very distinct discipline. It is evolving, and I think fundamentally what we were doing 20, 30, 40 years ago, what we're doing today, and what we're going to be doing well into the future is just creatively and efficiently finding ways to be noticeable, to be engaged, and to be in front of B2B buyers. And that's my take on much of what was in Rick's speech.
Now, Rick, I was wondering if you could, the growth of mobile and iPhones and BlackBerries everywhere is a central part of what you're talking about. And I was wondering, to what degree has your agency and your clients been successful in finding ways to communicate to people through these devices?
Well, I mean, I think that is, I think, the icon of this paradigm shift when you come right down to it. I told the story in Berlin of a young person here when we did a session with the group on work-life balance, and I kind of came to that conversation as the stodgy old curmudgeon who said, well, people have been talking to me about work-life balance all my career. The agency business is tough. We work long hours. Do you want a job or do you want a career? There's nothing new about work-life balance. And one of the young ladies reached in her jeans pocket and put her iPhone on the table and she says, oh, yeah, it's different. This is different. It's attached to me. I can't get away from it. And so, work goes with me wherever I go. Now, to some degree, I think that, to Gary's original point, I think that there's a matter of intrusiveness that's come in there that is going to have to be moderated somehow, because there's going to be almost a native human pushback against it all. On the other hand, there are dynamics at work in which we're seeing people who are engaging in these kinds of extended access to their work life as a matter of their own choice. While at the same time, there's been a great exchange of the idea of company time, because people are doing stuff at their desks and on the job site that they never would have imagined for the personal needs that they wouldn't have imagined doing 10 or 15 years ago. So it's clear that just as the desktop became a breakthrough for us in marketing to business decision makers at the advent of the web and the internet, the communications device, held in the hand or on the body of this person who's a business decision maker or influencer is the new screen to which we have to be focused. And so, yeah, we're doing a whole host of things, from applications to social media work to optimizing what were once large corporate sites to things that can be more easily interpreted in a handheld device. I mean, that is the new that's the new game space of marketing communications, whether it's B2B or B2C.
So, Tom, can you talk a little bit about how you guys are approaching marketing to these people on their mobile devices? Have you had some successes? Again, what's working?
Well, I think that we've done a lot of work, and we're going to be doing a lot more. I think that there is a great appetite among our clients and prospective clients in a number of different ways, shapes, and forms. Much to Rick's point, I think that the tablets and the smartphones have become the devices of choice in a lot of cases. And that being said, if they're devices of choice, then our need to communicate to them, whether it's through ways and means as simple and expected as advertising, and in other ways entirely, I think that is it's a green field, and it's going to be something that's going to occupy a lot of our time and attention. But I also think that it's going to take us into new avenues, and we together with clients are going to be able to create new opportunities that really cross the line from marketing to actual value delivery to customers, where it becomes an extension of a brand's value proposition and service deliverable to a client. I'll give you an example of that. We're actually working with a large retailer, and we're working with them on a tablet application that's intended to drive interaction with employees. And so there's training interaction, there's access to benefits and things of that nature, there's access to other information that's particularly germane to them, and tablets are going to be made available to them on premise at the stores in which they work, but also they have access to them from their own devices. So I think, it's an example. Is that a traditional marketing? And no, it's not, but I think it's a way, it's very much part of the marketing landscape that can be driven via mobile pervasiveness.
Okay. Gary, do you have any thoughts to add about how your company's going about taking advantage of these new and omnipresent devices?
Sure, like Rick's firm and Tom's firm, we're getting a lot more interest from clients in developing apps of all kinds. But I don't know why, but last spring we started to see many of our clients' mobile website traffic metrics start to exhibit the classic hockey stick upturn, and we attribute that shift, and we're not involved in with every single client in this space, but we sort of attributed that shift to increased network speeds, certainly better mobile devices and capabilities, and of course the B2B professionals' need to always, quote, be on. As our clients deploy mobile to even a greater degree in 2011, I think the key will be compelling content, especially, I would say, content in bite-sized portions that are appropriate to both the second and third screens. It also means formatting web content to be easily consumed on a mobile device and moving into online video that is mobile consumable, not flash-based. So those are some of the trends we see and the things we're working on with our clients as mobile really takes on much greater importance.
Okay.
I've tried to stay at the edge of things, as you know, through the course of our careers. And if you'd have told me 3 years ago that USG Corporation, manufacturer of drywall, was going to come to me requesting the development of an Apple-approved iPhone application through which they could roll out a new product, I would have told you were crazy. And yet, we just completed that last year as part of the rollout of their new lightweight product, and that was not a matter of them trying to be, do some marketing eye candy for the conference circuit. It was very much related to what it was going to take to move their product in communicating to the people they need to communicate to. And so, we've got probably a dozen such projects underway right now. So.
I would add to that, and I think that's a great example, Rick. And I totally agree with the statement that 3 years ago, to have prognosticated this level of uptake, I think someone would have been smarter than I am, that's for sure. But it's interesting that when you think about the development of technologies that that connect the analog world to the world of smart devices, and which are really very close to being a ubiquitous computer network that wraps around the globe. But so, think about it from the standpoint of in a complex category like technology. If someone goes into a retail environment and is looking to buy a router, and which is a tough technical choice for a small business person or a consumer to make, and the packaging has a QR code, and the QR code pops up a mobile site that has video and the kind of real information that someone needs to not make a horrendous mistake in choosing the right products for their particular need. I think these are particular connections that are going to be really important going forward.
It seems to me that custom content is something that's become really something people are talking about, especially over the past 12 months. It's something that agencies have always created, and I'm wondering, let's start with you, Gary. Are you guys doing more and more of this for your clients, or is it about the same as always?
I would say it's more. Did a little research on the question. We sort of learned content marketing, we estimate, now accounts for up to 25% of our clients' total marketing budgets. Now that's up to. The average is probably less. So if content's not king, it's certainly the crown prince. And where we are involved, and we're not necessarily involved with every client in content marketing, but where we are involved, we're helping them move from, piecemealed, siloed content generation to integrated content planning, strategy, and development. And I would say that because, in our opinion at least, exceptional content marketing that works across all channels and across each phase of a B2B buyer's buy cycle requires a pretty disparate set of skills, for a marketer and agency. You need traditional research for buyer insights to integrate with insights from web analytics and keyword research. You need the messaging positioning skills of a branding expert to integrate with the work of an information architect, and you need the editorial journalism skills of a skilled writer to integrate with the creative concepting ability of a creative team, and you need the skills of a direct response marketer to integrate with, what I'd say, the modern planning of inbound marketing. And you need marketing strategists who really understand how to break down walls with sales, define leads, and create overlapping nurture programs. So by blending these skills in the integrated environment of an INC agency or a client, we're able to help create pretty holistic strategies that efficiently support all inbound and outbound channels. So to make it quick, content marketing is taking on more and more importance all the time, but agencies aren't always in the thick of that as much as we'd like to be.
Rick, do you have any thoughts about custom content and why it's become more important and how it has or hasn't changed the kind of people you hire?
I'm first probably going to tell you that I think Tom Stein is the guru on this subject and has done some of the most innovative stuff around custom content. But my general sense, again, I think to a large degree, those of us who have been involved in B2B marketing for a long time have been closer to this custom content idea than the typical consumer marketer, and that's largely because most of our clients have a better sense of who their customers are and where they are and what their interests are. And so for years we've actually been driven to an increasingly larger amount of custom content delivery. But I think it's always been a part, this is an area where I would agree with Gary and say that this has always been a part of the formula of reaching business decision makers. Where I think it is growing is in larger executions of what we'll call kind of, my.com kinds of executions where we're delivering very specific custom content, not only to individual companies and divisions within companies, but titles within companies. And then, of course, the new frontier, where I suppose we'll get to in our conversation, is what I'll refer to as real-time custom content, where, we are right in the social media discussion streams, creating content in real time, which is about as custom as you can get.
Right. And Tom, I do remember you introducing me to Matt Johnston, who's a convert to the idea of custom content as a critical focus for marketing over at UTest. And so, yeah, I'd be very interested in hearing your take on how important this is going forward.
Yeah, I'm happy to say that as of about a week or two ago, Matt's now a client of ours. So the content, I agree with both Gary and Rick. Content's always been part of an integrated marketing approach from our agencies, and it's long been part of our business. But I think there's been an absolute sea change over the last couple of years, and I think there are several specific reasons why. I think this is immensely important. It's immensely important in the business-to-business space. 2 years ago, Stein Rogan launched a content marketing practice within the agency called Kilter. And we staffed it with domain experts, journalists, much to Gary's point, information architects and strategists, editors, real content professionals. And a couple years later, it's grown into one of the fastest, if not the fastest growing parts of our business. Right now, I can't think of a client that we do not do some aspect of significant content marketing, content creation for, and that these clients don't consider content a strategic driver of their brands and businesses. And we're seeing a tremendous amount of interest around aggregated and curated content platforms, around video content platforms, and multi-format content that's broadly syndicated across digital channels. And I think that being said, there are any number of reasons why, but there are a couple in particular that probably are noteworthy. One is the advent of marketing automation and lead nurturing systems and platforms in B2B that in turn hook into Salesforce and CRM structures. And these kinds of systems are extremely reliant on content and quality content in order to maintain conversation with prospects and to get to a point of interest that they become sales ready. I also think search engine optimization has become a huge driver of real-time content and content in general. Search engine optimization, of course, being reliant on spider food, content being spider food, that becomes a huge driver from that standpoint. And as Rick said, social media. You can't enter that space. You can't have valuable conversations unless content is the door opener, and particularly valuable content to any kind of community.
Okay,
but
Rick,
look, if I may.
Sure.
Sean, can I just ask them both a question? But maybe it's just me, but don't you guys also see some clients thinking this is something they can do themselves and just trying and wanting to do it themselves and often ending up with, frankly, fairly uninteresting content?
Well, I would say yes. I would say yes, but no more or less so than they've ever thought they could do a whole host of things themselves.
I think that's particularly well said. But I also think that clients are bandwidth constrained, and their marketing teams aren't as big as they want them to be. And this kind of work is not necessarily inherent to marketing org charts that exist today. In the future, I think that will change, and I think we're seeing it already, where there are content strategists joining our clients' teams. There are people from editorial journalistic backgrounds joining our clients' marketing teams. And I don't know if you are familiar with Joe Polizzi of Hunta 42 and the Content Marketing Council, but Joe's thesis about this is that marketing departments are going to become publishing departments. And I don't agree with that, but I agree with that partly.
Well, that's like David Merriman Scott, who says, we're all going to be publishers, and what you are on the web is fundamentally what you publish.
Right.
But I see a lot of firms hiring very young and experienced journalists and expecting overnight to have great content programs, and it just doesn't seem to work.
I wanted to talk more specifically about social networking, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and I'm wondering, Rick, let's start with you. To what degree do you think these three things will transform marketing and maybe already have?
Well, I think if you start in a B2B context, I've been advocating for a while now that in many respects what we've referred to as B2B marketing has always been social network marketing. It has just simply been conducted without the assistance of the wider range of tools and applications and that are apparent every new day. But business decisions are largely made by teams of people who are communicating with each other in the vetting and consideration and approval process, and now they're doing it on steroids. So to the degree that they're going to communicate this way, if we're going to be successful in igniting business decisions, we've got to be able to play in that space. That said, I think for the most part, most marketers are still finding their way in this space. Some more ably than others, but and I think that there is emergent now, in my opinion, a pretty interesting integration, between LinkedIn and Twitter that, at least in my opinion, is starting to create a platform, if you will, where it's a little easier to do what we do in reaching business decision makers than if we were out there, trying to market the latest generation of Mountain Dew or something like that.
Right. So, Tom, how about your thoughts on the power of social networking going forward?
I think that it's extremely important, again, not unlike content marketing in correlation and in tandem with content marketing and some of the other agile marketing concepts that Rick has put forward. We see all of our clients involved to some extent, some much more than others, and some who have actually gained quite a lot of experience with us and with other partners, that they're now being able to leverage and turn social networking into absolutely a primary inbound demand creation channel for them, as well as thought leadership channel. Something that's interesting, I just pulled the data out today for this conversation because I was curious, but in 2009 we did a brand demand survey of B2B marketers, and one of the things that we had looked at is what are the kinds of approaches that are being used most frequently in order to build brand and drive demand. And what was interesting to me is that social media has become one of the top 3 or 4. And so whether that's aspirational thinking by the respondents and they feel they have to respond that way, I don't know. But I just think it's noteworthy that there's been a very, very significant increase from 2009 to 2010, 2011. And I think that's going to continue to be the case.
Gary, anything to add on social networking?
Yeah, our own surveys say the same thing. We did a survey of about 40 senior B2B marketers about a year ago and asked them if they were planning to invest a lot more, a little more, a lot less, or a little less in 23 different kinds of marketing investments. And the first 7 all were either digital or social media nature. But, building upon a comment Rick made earlier, I've often looked at everything we do in marketing communications is to create word of mouth. It's just in the past we had different tools. These days we have other tools that help us maybe accomplish things faster. But there's no question in my mind that social networking, which includes blogging, video sharing, online communities, review sites, LinkedIn, Twitter, are really coming into their own as B2B marketing tools to help build awareness and understanding and generate consideration, purchase, interest, and sales. You only need to actually see and examine, for example, what Rick Short is doing with blogging at Indium Corporation to understand the potential sales impact of smart blogging. And now that it's the world's number 2 search engine, YouTube hosts more B2B video searches than consumer searches. Google and Bing, by enhancing social and video search results, will become more integral in the future to search strategy. And don't forget mobile, as I'm told 46% of Twitter's 50 million daily tweets come from mobile devices, and review sites are coming to B2B, and Groupon-like sites for B2B sales, I think, are just around the corner. After all, what is Groupon but an aggregated online buying co-op where buyers are participants, not owners? And finally, online communities, especially those that incorporate many of the previously mentioned social media tools may ultimately be the number one B2B social media killer app. Then there's LinkedIn, whose multifaceted potential for B2B marketers, at least in my opinion, and they're an agency client, has been barely scratched.
All right, well,
my sense is that something Tom just said about the way people answer these surveys, that, I mean, I think all of us would probably agree social media is the new black, and so, everybody wants to appear fashionable, and undoubtedly we are seeing, probably in all of our agencies, in relative terms, very fast growth in the revenues that are being spent with our firms around social media, and yet I would dare, I'm not prepared to say that it has yet kind of taken its place at the center of most of our clients' programs. Some. I actually think of it more like we've finally come to the place, after all of us talking about this for many years, where digital is at the center of a lot of programs now, where that was something we talked about more prospectively. But I really look at it in terms of evolution as being still pretty much in a frontier part of the world.
I think that there's I agree with that for the most part, and I think that even clients who want to get increasingly involved, especially in certain categories where compliance and regulatory issues may be at play, or where other stipulations in a given industry and where legal rigor is more intense than in other industries, are finding it more challenging. You made the point before, Rick. I think that real-time content is part of the social experience and conversation, and real-time and legal don't really. I don't think those are synonyms.
Yeah, I don't think so.
For sure.
I want to ask a question about Gary. Why don't you take this one, or start with this one? You mentioned a little bit about marketing providing, stronger leads to sales, and I'm wondering, have you seen any difference with the digital world and encroaching more and more of marketing and sales working together better, or at least the potential for it?
I think a really good example is what IBM is doing, and in fact, John Kennedy, the VP of Corporate Marketing there, who's driving a lot of this, will be talking more about it at the National BMA Conference here in Chicago in June. But I think IBM is really at the forefront of using digital tools, and I'm not familiar with every little detail, but using digital to enable customers and prospects to get much more immediate access, again, through a digital platform, to domain experts within the IBM organization globally. And John will cite evidence that the faster, the quicker, the sooner we can connect a customer or prospect who's got a question with one of our domain experts, and he'll say, boy, we have a lot of them, they can answer anything, the greater the chance that they get the incremental sale or bring that prospect on as a customer. So that's just one probably of many examples where digital is making a difference. But boy, this is one of the major initiatives at IBM, and it seems to be working. And more companies, I think, are looking at digital platforms to do just that.
Tom, do you have any thoughts on how marketing and sales are working together with these new tools?
I do. And I think that it fits and starts all the way. I think that the companies that do it very, very well, that would get an A, are rare. I think companies that get a B, maybe that's 10% or 15%, and it falls off real dramatically after that. We see just tremendous disconnects continue to exist between sales and marketing, and I think that there's a lot of impetus to resolve that situation, and I think the marketing automation platforms are, in a lot of cases, they're positioning themselves as the link that will help enable that. But I just think that there's a long way to go, and there's a lot of improvement to be made.
Rick, anything to add on that issue?
I would say that this is one area where I think those who are engaged in what we would call B2B actually could learn from where our B2C friends are, I think have stolen a march. And that is that to a large degree in B2B, we still kind of divide areas of what historically we would refer to as elements of the media mix, trade shows, advertising, direct mail, those kinds of things, from units of operation that were channel related, like the outbound telemarketing, inbound telemarketing, partner programs, e-commerce, point of sale, as being channel related things that were largely closer to the domain of the sales organizations. In the large consumer products marketing organizations today, they see channels as that entire map. And I think most B2B companies don't think that way yet, and probably and definitely to their detriment, because there's so much convergence among those things that it's probably that more than anything else that are bringing marketing and sales together. I mean, I think that this technology has enabled better integration between marketing and sales, but I would probably agree with Tom that it remains astonishing to me that the chasm between marketing and sales in most companies is still much wider than it ought to be.
Okay. Well, I want to ask you guys one more question, an old-fashioned question, and I'll start with you, Tom. How do you anticipate the economy is going to affect your business this year?
Okay. I think that we saw significant improvement in all facets of our business, or virtually all facets of our business, in 2010, in virtually every sector that we're involved in right now. So technology, business advisory, telecoms, education and education technology, financial services, et cetera. We expect and are seeing the pace quicken this year. We grew in 2010 reasonably, and we think that we'll grow more this year. My sense is that all of our clients are leaning forward. When we're talking to them, almost universally there are significant plans afoot to invest, whether it's investing in product innovation, in experience innovation, in brand, in thought leadership, in customer acquisition. So I think that 2011 seems quite promising, and I think that the industry will grow, and I think that our business will grow. So I think in general that there's going to be an uptick to follow on, and a more significant uptick to follow on the one that occurred in 2010.
All right, Rick, let's go to you next. What is your anticipation of the economy?
Well, we grew very substantially year on year, 2010 to 2009, but frankly, I got to admit, if you were capable of breathing, you were probably able to do that in just about any business.
Right.
If I look at 2010 to 2008, I'd have to regard the growth as moderate, respectable but moderate. And I actually buy into this economic theory, the great moderation, which suggests that the other area that is often referred to B2B has to do with procurement science and procurement applications, and the perfections that have been worked in supply chain and logistics. Those things, there's been so much improvement there that I don't think that the bounces that you get coming off a recession are going to be as dramatic as they have historically been, because things like inventories are so much better managed. So I expect another year of respectable, moderate growth, which is going to create lots of new opportunities. We'll probably be employing more people, but I would not characterize what I see ahead of us. While the pace is quickened, while the new business pipeline is more full than it certainly has been in a long time, I don't see us like running into up a dot-com mountain or anything like that, or that we're heading into some sort of robust period ahead of us.
And Gary, I'll give you the last word. What's your outlook?
Well, sure. I think my outlook's actually a little more optimistic. The bottom line is our business only improves when our clients' businesses do, or when their confidence in the future improves and they see potential returns that justify investment in innovation, new markets, and newer expanded marketing programs. So for us, most of these indicators saw quite an uptick last year across pretty much our entire client base, and as a result, we ended 2010 45.3% ahead, I checked with my CFO, of 2009 in gross revenue. So I guess knock on wood, but there's frankly have seemed to be so many new positive economic indicators just 1 week into 2010 that frankly we're even more bullish on what this year will bring than we were just a few weeks ago in December. So we're estimating, and I'm sure many other top B2B agencies are too, potential revenue growth this year, 25 to 30%, which I think by all accounts is certainly more than moderate.
All right. Well, thanks for taking the time to talk with me, Gary and Tom and Rick. I appreciate it always, and I'll talk to you guys again soon.
You're very welcome.
Thank you
very much.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks, Tom.
Yes.